you're on mute this entire time. No one can hear you.
Oh, wow. Thank you. And I thought we didn't have an audience, and now they're logging on because Text Blast is now just about to go off. I did that yesterday on our stream. Maybe I could play it off by saying I was practicing my lip syncing. Anyway, hi, everybody. I'm so excited that you are with us today. And we have our game development training again, part 2 of our second week with Tech Queen Elite Training Institute. We're so excited to welcome Amani once again. I wanted to say in reflection, last week we were doing web design, learning HTML, JavaScript, introduction, CSS coding. Also, Amani went over some Unity and Blender. Our students have been getting a lot of information on technology. They've been getting a lot of wealth of coding. This is our coding camp boot camp. We go every day strong for several hours in the morning till just about lunchtime. Of course, we include our brain breaks. And we've been having a lot of fun. I mean, Amani's been going over Unity and Blender, and we've been going over, this week we're going to have Minecraft for math. Yay! And we're going to have Microsoft application. It's just so much in our boot camp. We're going over a lot. And we're excited because our young little coders will be on. We had over 400 students registered, and we're excited to bring this technology through our live training and recording to all of the students that have registered across the globe. We're reaching Barbados and Germany and Europe, Africa, Canada, all throughout the United States. So this is our international training 2020, broadcasting on all the social media platforms from YouTube to Facebook to you name it, our website, of course. And so without further ado, wow, we have a couple hours ahead of us. And so I am going to be quiet for a moment, and I'll be back towards the last part of our training because I want you all to get every bit you can in this Unity and Blender and game development. And we're going to turn it over to the well-capable rock star student, Nevada Help Desk student, and rock star of the century, Amani. Hey, Amani.
Hello. Sharing my screen right now.
All right.
Today we'll be getting into a couple of different things, and mainly we'll be focusing on Unity. And so tomorrow we'll be getting into our main project because you guys will be getting we'll be giving you guys a Microsoft Teams account, so I'll be able to get you guys a couple more files. But for today, we'll be going into Unity more.
And they'll get that account before they hang up today. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but they're going to get their login before they hang up today. All right, bye.
All right. So yeah, you guys will be getting your Microsoft account before today. So tomorrow we can start working on our main project. So for today, I wanted to run through a couple different, I guess, more tips, tricks, and just generally, in a sense, how to use Unity. So I can go through a couple of those today. And also that would be good for you guys, so I can also teach you guys some skills that would be required for making the actual game. So if you guys could open up the test, or open up the Unity project that we were working on last week. So is everyone's Unity able to open up properly? Wrong game. This is the right one. All right. So everyone who was able to create something in Unity or was able to mess around in Unity last week. All right. So I can go over a quick recap of what we learned last week. which is, or what we learned in Unity last week, which is how to make a terrain and how to make a very simple animation. So if we press play in our game, all that's going to show up is this cube moving around. Yeah, just a very simple animation of a cube moving in a circle. So what we also did is our terrain, which is, you can put in terrain into your Unity project by going right-click, 3D, terrain, and you can edit that terrain by going over to, by actually selecting the terrain and clicking over here, paint terrain. After you click paint terrain, make sure that this bar over here says raise or lower terrain. And then you can choose a brush from over here and start messing around with the terrain. So that's how we modify terrain. Also, there's all these different there's all these different options. So you can raise or lower terrain, and then paint texture. We'll be getting into that later on today. Set height, which is what set height will do is that it will set the terrain's height to a static value. So unlike what we were doing before, where it just kind of raised it, no like limit. If we put set height on it, let's see. Okay, if we put set height on it, it'll raise the terrain to a set value. And it won't go any higher than that like this. And then the other brush is smooth height, which will smooth out whatever you brush over so that it's not as static anymore, smooth like. So to get terrain, you have to right click over here, 3D object, terrain. And then to create our very basic animation, let's go over here. Then to create our very basic animation, I don't think I explained everything very correctly because we ran out of time yesterday, so I'll go more in depth on this. I'll delete this then. So what we want to do to create an animation is, I want you guys to really understand how creating an animation works. So what you have to do to create an animation is a two-parter, right? You have to create whatever animation you're creating and then put it in what's called an empty object. So let me tell you the reason why we do that. So when we create an animation, right? So let's say we put in a cube here. Let's find our cube. Where is it? Where's my cube? Where's my cube? It's somewhere here. There it is. So when we create an animation, okay, also remember when you want to change an object, the commands for doing basic transformations, which are scale, move, and scale, move, and rotate, it's W, E, and R. So this W is move, E is rotate, R is scale. And then to scale them, you can just click and drag. All right, so to make a basic animation, let me move this in front of the camera real quick. To make a basic animation, oh, it's too high. There we go. Okay. All right, so to make a basic animation, what you want to do is go on to Window, Animation, and then Animation. What will happen is that this animation bar will pop up down here, or an animation screen should pop up somewhere, Fun fact is that you can just drag and drop wherever they are. So if it like comes up here or over here or up here, you can just drag it to wherever you want to place it. I usually just keep mine down here. So it's just as simple as pressing create and then saving your animation somewhere. So make sure that when you save your animation, you keep the name in mind. Make sure you remember where you save it. And you also, remember where you save it. Make sure you save it as something that's actually useful you understand. A very important thing about game design is organization, or game development is organization. So make sure that you have it doesn't have to be like this really complex system of naming things, but make sure you have things that named appropriately and easy to understand for another person. And so to create a simple animation, we click create, it gives us this basic animation, and to animate it, let's just make a very simple animation. So I want everyone to follow me here. So is everyone good up until this step? I'll wait for everyone. I really want you guys to know this part. So an animation is a very critical part in game development. So just want to double check with everyone. Is everyone able to get up to this part? Your terrain might not have anything there, but you guys are able to get in a cube. Make sure you right click on the side, 3D object, and to get a terrain, you go terrain. So are you able to do that? You're not able to right click over here at all. Even if your project is empty, you should still be able to right click on this side. "3D object, terrain." And then that's how you get in a terrain. So as I also said before, after you summon in your terrain, you click terrain and you click this paint text or paint terrain. After you click that, you can choose different brushes and set this tab over here to raise or lower terrain. And that's how, and then you can just start clicking everywhere. All right, and then next on to the cube. Remember, so whenever you create your cube, it could be anywhere on like this terrain, and it could be even under the terrain. So the way you want to find where your cube is, you want to select your cube and then use what I told you guys before about W, E, and R. You can select your cube, W, E, and R, and those like little, nodes would pop up wherever it is. So is everyone able to get in a cube? Just a simple cube and then place it somewhere and you can see it. All right. So you guys are able to get in the cube and you can see it. So make sure that, also as I showed you guys before, when you guys create the animation, or to show you guys how to create the animation, go to Window, up here at the top, Window, Animation, Animation. Once you click on that, this window will pop up. It won't pop, it might not pop up exactly here for you guys. That's why I was also showing you guys that no matter where it is, you can drag and drop it wherever or whichever part of the screen you guys want. It will not work on a Chromebook. Unity will not work on a Chromebook.
Amani, that whistling fan noise is on, FYI.
Oh, then I'll turn it off real quick. And that's cool. So what we did here is, all we did is we created a cube and got our animation window up. So was everyone able to get to that point? You guys were able to get a cube and you were able to pull up your animation window. Y'all good up to there? All right. So whenever you guys, so again, to get in a cube, you have to right click 3D object, cube, and it could be anywhere. So it is normal for it to like somehow be underground. That's when you use W, E, and R to pull it up. So you can use W to raise it a little bit, scale to scale it out so you can see it a little bit better. And then you just use W to pull it out so you're able to see it somewhere. So W, E, and R, that's how you do basic transformation. Then to get your animation window, you go up here to Window, Animation, Animation. All right, so to create our animation, what we have to do is after you guys press create and you save your animation somewhere, you'll be left with a blank screen like this, right? So what we should do here is that we can press this little red dot, which is record, and then we can start changing our cue. So what we can do now is that what happens now is that whenever we move our cube or do something to it, like one of our transformations, Unity will record that as part of the animation. So, and it'll record it as a keyframe. And you guys remember how I explained keyframes to you guys, which is like if I drop this pencil, right, and I wanted to make it an animation, in Unity, what I would have to do is I would have to make a keyframe up here and make a keyframe down here. And the computer will kind of, it'll fill out the blanks essentially. And so it would say the pencil was up here, now the pencil's down here, so the movement was just like that. So that's exactly what we have to do with this cube, right? So what we can do is we have to first make its initial keyframe, And what we can do there is we can just move it a tad bit. And then you'll see this thing pop down at the bottom, right? What that is, it's a cube position keyframe. So Unity is saying, okay, this cube was at so-and-so location at 0 seconds. Then we can make another keyframe somewhere else. Like let's say we raise the cube up a little bit, and then it'll say, okay, it was at so-and-so position at 5 seconds. Then we can go to another place on our timeline, move it again, and it'll essentially keep on doing that until we say stop. And so I'll just make a basic animation. Your animation can be whatever you guys want it to be. And what I did there is that I copied, so you can select these and then copy your animation or copy that keyframe. And then once you're done, you press the record button again. So this is our animation right now. As you guys can see, it's going a tad bit too quickly. So what we want to do is change the speed of it in the animator. So I'll wait for you guys to make sure that you guys have already created your first basic animation. So is everyone with me with the basic animation? Just to go over it, right? Your animation can be whatever you guys would like it to be. Just remember that this is a cube and it is recording keyframes. So you don't have to record every single key spot, just every time it changes. Are you guys all good up till there? So to make your animation, make sure that you have your cube, you have your animation window, which you get from Window, Animation, Animation, and make sure that whenever you are ready to create your animation, you use the W, E, and R, which are move, rotate, and scale, to create different keyframes. And all you have to do is move your sort of timeline marker ahead, so that you can place keyframes at different times. What part are you stuck at, Kimani? Like, what isn't working? Maybe that's a better question. Like, Also, if anyone else is having issues, please say something in the chat so I can be able to help you guys. Like, is it frozen? So one of the things I'd like for you to check is over here at the bottom, make sure that auto generate lighting is off. The way you turn that off is that you just click over here and make sure that auto generate is unchecked. Were you able to do that, Kimani? Were you guys, so is everyone else? All right. So everyone else who hasn't done that, make sure you do that, because that is a very big reason about why Unity freezes when you first start it. So anyone else who's following us, has anyone else gotten to this part yet? So Kimani, was that the reason why your Unity was slowing down? After you do that, Unity shouldn't slow down as much. So is anyone else having issues? Because also keep in mind that this is still a recorded video. So if you guys do need to go back to anything, or you guys might have came in late, this is still recorded. It's called Unity. All right, so I think I want to move on from here and show you guys something else before we take our brain break. So what we want to do after this cube, right? We fully animated the cube. It's a basic animation. So what we come into a problem is, right, is what if we wanted to move the cube somewhere else? So let's say we wanted to move the cube, let's say over here, right? We actually can't do that because whenever we press play, the cube will just go back to its original location. And that's because what our keyframes are essentially saying is this cube should be at this location at this time. So that's what the keyframes are saying. So if we wanted to move it, it's not relative. That's like a better word. It's not relative. The animation is not relative to wherever the cube starting location at. It's a very static location where the cube will have to be at that specific time. So the way we get around that issue is what we get is an empty. We get a parent object that is an empty object. So what an empty object is essentially nothing. And it is a object that doesn't have anything attached to it, isn't like a shape, doesn't have any scripts to attach to it, is just completely empty. So the way you want to create that is you right click on the side, kind of how we got our cube in terrain, and over here we say create empty. And then we drag and drop our cube onto the empty so that our cube is under the empty. What that does is that whenever something, or whenever I would say a object or a attribute or one of these things is parented to another thing, it creates a sort of relative location. So this game or like, so let's say this cube, right? If it's at position, like let's say 001, it'll be at position 001 inside this game object. So it's kind of like its own little world. So like this game object should be, yeah, so this game object is right in the center of this cube. And so what you can see here, right, is we can see like the position of the game object is these numbers. So the X, Y, and the Z. And then the position of the cube is these three numbers, right? So what will happen, right, is whenever we play the animation, or if we look at this keyframe on the animation, it changes the position. Oh shoot, no, our empty's over there. So what we can do is that we can, let me get our empty over here. So what I'm trying to do right now is that I'm moving the empty object. I'll just create another one because this one's going to get a little bit weird. Create empty. So let me create another empty object for you guys. I'm just going to copy and paste the first keyframe. You guys don't have to do this. I'll explain in just a second what I'm doing. All right, so what I just did is, So what I just did is that I changed the position of the game object and the cube so that they're both at the same starting location as the animation. So what that mumbo jumbo of words means is that I changed the position so that everything starts at one spot. So now I can properly show you guys what I mean by that. What I mean by like the relative locations and all that stuff. And there's another problem. So what happens is that whenever we want to, like, let's say this cube, right? Whenever it's attached to the game object, whatever the game's object's location will be its new sort of 0, 0, 0 starting location, right? So that means what we have to do here is actually we have to change our animation so that it can fit along the lines of our game object or our empty. So what we can simply do there is we can make some arbitrary values for like our position and so that it comes out the same. So what we want to do here is like for our starting animation, what we want to do is change all the positions to 0, 0, 0. I'll press record, then change them all to 0, 0, 0. Then we can go over to our second keyframe. And then since we want it to rise a little bit, and that would be the y-axis, we can change our like y to like 10. No, let's go 30. Then 0, 0. And then since we wanted it to move to the left a bit, left a bit, we can change it on the x-axis, right? So that means what we could do there is if this was backwards. So that means we could change the x-axis to negative 30, 30, 0. Oh, make sure you guys press record when you guys do that. Don't make a mistake like me when I do that. And then we want it to come back down. So that would be 0. Wait. So we go over here, then it rises and then moves to the left, and then it comes back down. Yeah, so y would be 0. So this would be negative 30. Oh, make sure you guys press record again. Negative 30, 0, 0. And then you want it to return back to its starting location, which was 0, 0, 0. All right, so now that we've fixed up the location of the cube, we can now drag it to the game object. And so that when we press play, everything should work out. Yeah. So what we essentially did there, right, is as I was explaining to you guys before, whenever you put a parent on something, what happens is that whatever is underneath the parent becomes like the new 0, 0, 0 location. So regularly in Unity, the 0, 0, 0 location will be somewhere over there. But since the cube is under our game object empty, that becomes the new 0, 0 location. So this location becomes the new 0, 0 location. And so our actual game object is somewhere over here, not over there. Our cube is doing some funky stuff. If we move this back to 0, 0, 0. So our game object is right there. And then our cube is, as you see here, 0, 0, 0, which is relative to wherever the game object is. So as we move this, you'll see like if we move it over here, right, our game object will change, but not our cube's location because it's relative to the game object. I know that's like somewhat difficult to understand as like a first time thing, but I try my best to explain it. Was everyone able to somewhat understand what I meant by when I was explaining everything? What I meant by like relative locations and all that mumbo jumbo. Any thumbs up from anyone? Or is anyone still? Was anyone able to somewhat understand what I was talking about, relative locations and what that does to affect the animation at all? All right, so I'll try to explain it again in a simpler way. How can I say this? You guys understand what an origin is, right? Where like the starting location is, right? And like the what would I say? The relationships of like an X, Y, and Z axis. Do you guys somewhat understand what those are? Like what an X, Y, and Z axis are? Yeah, so Minecraft uses like an X, Y, and Z axis as well. Let me go over here. So like an X, let's go X and Y, right? So you guys have already seen like what a graph looks like. Bad Y. Right? Crummy Y, but that'll have to do. So this is a 2D plane, right? So how there's an X and a Y axis, right? And so we have like numbers that go all the way up. Like so there's like a 1, and there's like a 2, and there's like a 3. The same thing for X, and then the same thing for Y. Oh, these are backwards. Let me fix that real quick. In actual math, this is the y-axis, this is the z-axis. No, this is the y-axis, this is the x-axis, sorry. And then I can redo everything. So there's like your y, you have 1, you have 2, and you have 3. Right, so this is just a 2D plane of x and y, right? So this is just a basic coordinate plane. So when we say a point is at 1, 1, what we're saying is that this point is right there. When we're saying a point is at 3, 3, what we're saying is that that point is right there. So that is the basis of what like an origin is. So what an origin is 0, 0. So the origin would be right here. The center or like the beginning of the graph, right? So also keep in mind that these graphs can go to like negative values as well, which would just be going down more, going to the left more. So that's the basis of what a origin is, right? So now when we get into, let's say now when we get into a 3D space, we have a new axis. So this is the y-axis and this is the x-axis. And whatever the numbers are for those values will go up or down. So now when we go into a z-axis, right? Like as we see on here, so we see our y-axis, we see our x-axis, and then we see our z-axis over here, which is the depth. I won't use Blender for this one. So that's what I mean by X, Y, and Z. And so Unity will tell us what its position is when we hover over the object. So the X, the Y, and the Z, right? So is everyone able to understand like what a coordinate plane is? Is everyone like somewhat able to understand what the coordinate plane is at all? So I think everyone is somewhat able to understand. If there isn't any like pushback on it. So what we use for that, right, is that Unity has its own coordinate plane and the origin is somewhere is like right there, that corner over there, right? So what we did is that when we put the cube as a parent of this object, we changed its origin from being over there to wherever the object is, or wherever the game object is. That's essentially what I just did there. And the reason why we do that is because of the animation, right? The keyframes record what its position is on a static point. So what we changed is instead of changing the keyframe's position every time we wanted to move our animation somewhere, we just changed the origin. So that if we wanted to move our animation maybe a little bit to the left or a little bit back or a little bit up, the cube's origin doesn't change, so that it still stays the same relative animation. So now it'd be starting from somewhere up there. All right, so that was like a lot of math-ish and geometry and basics into geometry. So keep those skills in mind, especially for you guys who haven't taken geometry yet or algebra yet. That's a very useful concept to know. So the other thing that we want to do is go to our animator. So the way we get our animator is exactly how we get our other, that's how we got our animation, which is we go to Unity, or we go to Window, sorry, and Animation, Animator. So what happens then is that this window will pop up somewhere and you'll see our animation. So what this essentially means is entry is when the object is first put in, right? Any state is what it will do when it's not doing anything else. And exit is exit. It'll terminate the animation and all that other fun stuff of getting rid of an object. So what this entry animation is this is the animation that we just created. What we want to go over here and do is this very useful thing over here where we can change the speed. So we can change the speed to something like 0.5 so that it doesn't move as fast. So even after we change that, and we can move our cube down so our camera can see it and play, you can see it moves a little bit slower. That's my issue. That's my problem. I need to move this cube, go back to your original location. So my issue there was that I was changing the location of the cube and not the game object, so it didn't know what I was trying to do. There you go. So as you see there, the animation slowed down a little bit. And then we can actually slow it down even more by just changing the value on the cube animator. So we can change it to, like, let's say 0.2, and then it'll move real slow. So that's the basics of an animation, a lot more explained, a lot more in depth. From at least from Thursday, we didn't have a lot of time to talk about it, so yeah. So is anyone else following me a little bit at all? Okay, so if everyone has followed up to that point, what we can do on from here is we can maybe start playing with scripts. So what we can do is we can go over to our cube, right? Add component down here. So we go over to our cube, scroll down to add component, and then let's type script. New script. Name your new script whatever you want. And then also a very key thing to remember when you're dealing with scripts is do not include spaces in your name. Whenever you create a script, don't include any spaces. Your script should pop up somewhere around here and then open up your script. Brain break is not until another 5 minutes or so, so we still got some time. You can't sleep us just yet, or 2 minutes. So I wanted everyone to at least get to this point. So if so is everyone able to open up Visual Studios? Visual Studio should automatically open when you click on the script. Like here it is. So when you click on the script, Visual Studio should automatically open. Is everyone up to that point? Make sure that you sign into your Google account if it says that you need an account. Make sure you sign in then. All right, so now is officially time for our brain break. So I'll give you guys some time to go stretch, do something, get away from the computer. And before you guys leave, just make sure you guys have the screen. You have your screen as you have, or your screen looks like mine. There you go. Visual Studios opened up, and it should come pre set up with all this mumbo jumbo. Go. All right, so we'll be back at 9:15. Have fun, enjoy your lives for the next 15 minutes. All right. Hello, everyone. Let's get back into this. All right. So, what do you mean that you can't get in? Is there like a So just log in with your account. Don't try to create a new one. Then that's something where you have to reset the password on your own. I can't really help you too much in that front. Then let's get on to the actual coding. All right, so I want to make a basic script where we press the button and an animation will start. So that means the other thing that we need to do now is to create another animation. So if we go back to our animation over here in our animation tab, we can go over here, create new clip. And then we can go create a new animation, and then we can make this animation do something else. So I don't know. Let's make this animation scale out the cube to make it bigger, and then make it smaller, then I don't know. And then maybe make it do a circle. And then let's make it do like a full circle. Let's go half a circle, and then we can return everything to the way it was. So this basic animation is just a cube spinning, and then it pops up. Yeah, you can't use Unity with a Chromebook. That's something that you can't, or you're not able to do. So you guys can create a new animation. Just make sure that whatever new animation you create, it's something that you guys can manage. So yeah, I'll wait for you guys just to create a new animation for how long you guys think will that take? A couple minutes? Yeah, I'll give you guys to like 225 to create a new animation. If you guys have any questions, please send them in the chat. So are you sure you guys don't have any questions on these at all? You can't. There isn't a way that a Chromebook will be able to run Unity or Blender. Unless it's one of the Chromebooks that can run exe files. So unless your Chromebook is one of the newer ones that can run exe files, I don't think you would be able to run Blender or Unity. What do you mean by access the color? Are you talking about Unity or Blender? Because if you're talking about Unity, we'll go over that after we finish our game. And then if you're talking about talking about Blender, then that's something we can go over by the end of today, after we go over everything with Unity. Yeah, we'll go over that then at the end of today. I don't want to stray too far away from what we were doing. All right. So after we create our second animation, what we can do is we can all right. So we have, there we go. All right. So what we want to do is make a basic, it's going to be a basic if statement, and it's going to say, if this button is pressed down, play this animation. And it's going to look something like this. All right. So let's start off with this, right? So in the void update, so let me tell you guys what voids are. So voids are sort of when the code would be run. So void start is when the object is first brought in, and then void update is once per frame. Yeah, as you can see here, start is called before the first frame update. Update is, or void update is called once per frame. And then we're able to put code in there, and it will call it, and then it'll run the code once every frame. So it will start off with a simple if statement. So if space semicolon input dot get key up another colon, and then quotation marks, and then whatever button you want to press. So I'll make it Q. And then you go enter. You go enter. Then you go another colon, and then you put whatever the if statement would be. And so our if statement, or whatever we want to accomplish in our if statement, is to play an animation, which would be all right. So there. So to play an animation, it would be, I'm pretty sure, yeah. Oh, yeah, before we do that, we need to call in our animation, or the animation controller, or the animation how do I say this? Component. There we go. The animation component. So what we have to do is that we have to put at the top here animator and animator space, which will be like my shorthand of calling it. So what we just did, right? So the way Blender works is, or not Blender, the way Unity works when you're trying to play with code and all that stuff, is that all the code is doing is manipulating what we already have over here, right? So all the code is doing is manipulating any base, sort of fundamental properties it would have with like the transformation, and or with any base fundamentals it has for just being an object, and then it also manipulates any other component that we add here. So we could manipulate the box glider, or the animator, which we're going to do, or the mesh render, which we can do if we wanted to. So all these things that we're like manipulating, like we can click on and off and stuff like that, we can control that with the animator. So, or with script. So what we did right now is that we called in the animator, which is the which is this component right here. Every time you want to mention something, every time you want to mention a component that isn't something that's already pre-built into whatever the object is, you want to mention like a component that is right here. If you can see it here, you can mention it. You have to mention it as whatever its name is, and then like a sort of variable for it, which is kind of like a shorthand for it, so you don't have to write animator all the time. So what we can do here is that we can go anim dot play dot anim dot play, and I think if I remember this correctly, it's quotation marks, then the name of it, and the name of our animation, which is, let's go back. What's the name of our animation? Project here. The name of our animation is Cube Anim. So Cube Anim. I think that should already let me double check my code. Yeah, that should work. So, what actually, let's make it Cube Anim 2, or Cube Anim 1, which is the second animation. And then let's say we want to make another if statement so that we can go back to our original animation. We can actually just copy and paste what we did here, And then go to, instead of cube anim one, we can go to the other animation we called it, which is cube. And then change the key press so that it's like W. Save it, so Control S is how you save, or you can go to File, Save, I think it should be somewhere here. Yeah, save, Control S, save, Control S, Shift S, save all. And then we can go back to our Blender project, and when we press play, it should run through that animation, right? So now when we go over, when we press, oh shoot, it gives us an error. Object reference not set an instance. Let's try this one more time. Let's whatever it is it's trying to bring up. Oh, we got our names wrong, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, we got our names wrong. That was it. Let's try this again. So this is where coding gets very tedious, where something as small as, like, as you guys saw, just me getting the name wrong can go with a different error. Something died. Alright, this is where coding gets tedious. So, to the best I can answer your question is, this video is recorded, so even if you can't access it now, or even if you can't access a computer now, just whenever you can, you would be able to you'd be able to have access to all the code. All right, let's try to figure out what's wrong with our code. That's correct. So a very useful strategy that I do a lot is take out parts of your code, especially if it's like a multi-parter. Let's try it here. Input get queue animation. What is its problem today? All right. All right, we're having issues. This is gonna be fun. So let's try simple code. Let's try a simpler code where it's print quotation marks, or no, colon quotation marks, hello world, then apostrophe. So this code should be some. It's not giving us any errors. So this code should be a simple code of whenever we press Q, yeah, should just say hello world. So it's getting our Q pressed. I think the problem is referencing the animator. So whenever we press Q, you can see at the bottom here it says hello world, and that should be something basic in terms of coding. And then in terms of actually fixing our code so that it works properly, that's going to be another different question. All right, so let's go anim dot play quotation marks, then whatever our animation is called, which was cube num1. Yeah, there we go. Now our code is working. So as you see here, it's just going to play through the other animation, and now we can add in back our other code, and we should be all good from here. There we go. So it's doing that animation, and now when we press Q, it's going to do this one. Then I press W, it's going to go back. Yeah, so that's just a simple animation that can start and stop. Keep in mind, remember everyone, that I want to first ask Bob, was anyone like somewhat trying to follow what I was trying to do when we were animating everything? I know the code part was a little iffy, but code is finicky like that. So, was anyone following along at all? It's okay if you guys weren't. Just remember that this video will be still using these skills tomorrow, most likely, once everyone gets their team's account set up. All right. So we've made a basic animation. We've made a script for a basic animation, and we've made our terrain. So that's what we've covered so far today. And yeah, that's really about it. Let me try to see if I can cure up something else to show you guys. All right, let me try to see if I can show you guys something else. I was just looking at my other code. Let's try to see if I can import these. All right, so what I can show you guys is how to change vector 3s. So let's go with another, let's change this input to something like E, and then I'll show you guys another if statement where we can move. I think this should work. So if we go input dot get key, get key input dot get key down, there we go, and then quotation marks, and then that. All right. There you go. So we just made another if statement of when it's saying, when the key or when W is down, we can move forward. So we can move the cube essentially. So what we can do instead of moving forward is when we look at our axes, right? Z is moving forward. So what we can do is that we can go vector oh, we can actually mention the transform. So that's what we can do instead. We can go over here and actually input the transform. And then so kind of as we did with the animator, right? We can go public transform and then we can just put a shorter version of it as tran. And then, yeah, we can put a shorter version of this tran, and then we can go tran dot x plus 1. I think that should work. Loop, it's yelling at me. What I do. X position. Dot x position. All right, I'll figure this one out. Let's actually switch over from this one. So this was just something I was trying to show you guys, but I'm gonna have to double check with you guys on that one. So we can actually try something else. Oh, I know what we can try. Since we do have some time left over, I'll teach you guys about the colors, right? You guys want to know about the colors in Blender? So I can show you guys quickly how to do that part. So what we can do here is, when I was showing you guys about the colors, just a quick overview again, is we can change the colors. Like, let's say we'll take this simple cube, we'll put back our lights in our camera, and then we just maybe say we want to make this cube red, right? So we can go over to the material properties and change this base color to red. And then just like that, we've changed our color. So when we add in this material, right, we can click, usually what happens is that we left with this, then we click new, and then Principled BSDF, which is a OK shader for like, it's a very, how would I say it? It's a matte texture, I would kind of say, where it's not glossy, nothing will, or the light won't like bounce off it or won't look glossy or anything, but it'll look like, let's say, like a wood table, how it doesn't bounce back any light, you could say. So if we set that to red, and then maybe we can add a little floor where we can go mesh, plane, scale out a little floor just for it to sit on. Then to see our colors in material preview, you can go Z, material preview, and that's it. That's actually it. That's all of our scene. We haven't, that's just us playing with colors essentially. And then what we can do is we can go to rendered, and that would be the cube rendered. And we can press 0 for camera view, and that would just be like a simple scene with a red cube. So that's just like a very quick reminder, you guys, of the different views of the rendered and material view, and how to make a simple cube scene, I guess. So something else I can show you guys is, since we do have some more time, I can show you guys, or like kind of run through what the game would be. So what we're going to learn on Monday, at least, is we're going to be running through this. We've already created our start. We've already created our start and finish line. We've already created our base, and then we have our cubes, and we have our character. We have our character right over there. So what we can do from that point on is that we can, or what we're going to do on Monday is that we're just going to jump straight into it, and hopefully I'll be able to get you guys these parts if yours may not look as, if you wanted to try out mine instead of yours. And we also have the base here. And what we'll also be coding is something called, I like to call like an end box. So Unity has this really cool thing where you can set things as triggers, right? So you can kind of create like this box where I call like a trigger box, where something will happen when the cube goes into the box. It's very basic in terms of that sense. Like if we want to create a trigger box here, like maybe we'll say, we'll create a trigger box that maybe we'll say hello world twice. I don't know. So what we can do is we can go to a cube, we can create a cube, and then there we go. So mode is like what we did last time, scale up the cube, bring it so that we can actually see it. And then cube over here, scale it up. And then what we can do is that we can set the cube to a is triggered. And what that essentially means is that as whenever you got a box collider is essentially saying something can't go through this. It acts like normal physics. Like if you made a table and you put a box collider on it, you can't go through the table, or you can't go through it essentially. And so what that essentially means is that when we set it as triggered, that means that things can now go through it. And then what I usually do is turn off mesh render so that it's our character in game, you won't be able to see it. So what we've essentially done there is that we've essentially made this empty box that something will happen when the character, or something can happen if the character passes through it. So let me go over here to, and then what I usually do is that I would add another script to it. So let's add a new script, call it collide. Cool. I'm just open up this one real quick. And what we can do here is that we can, if I remember this correctly, we can open up a new void. It was void trigger. Defox. Yeah, right here. On trigger enter. That's the word I'm looking for. So what that essentially means, it's a new void function. It's kind of as how we had the other voids where it would, how kind of this void calls on when it's updated. This void calls on it when our objects is triggered. And that's when it was very important for us to call this second cube is a trigger. So we go over here to, what was it again? On trigger enter, yeah. So on trigger enter. And as you can see, it already kind of sets it up other. And okay, so what this other part means is that kind of like how there was a shorthand for up here, or not up here, for our cube, or for cube animation, how we made a shorthand for animation, it automatically makes a shorthand for the other in our animation. So what we can actually say is if, no, think your statement, so if other so if, let's try something else. So on void trigger, when other is here. So we don't actually, so what we can actually do here is just type print print hello, or print quotation marks hello world 2, and then quotation mark colon or, and then what this will actually, or what it should do is that whenever we run our program and our box collides with our other box, so this collides with this box, it'll actually just say hello world 2 at the bottom. So we can actually test that by pressing play. console. Yeah, so it's not hitting our box. What we can do is that we can move our game object a little bit closer. Yeah, and now it should be able to hit our box. Something's not working here. So another code problem. I don't think it's recognizing whenever it's hitting our box, or whenever the other cube is hitting our box. So what we can do is, yeah, if. So another if statement that says if col.game. Okay. Also, another disclaimer. I should check on your guys' messages more. So, if you guys do have any questions, just remember that this video is being recorded, and everything that we're going to go over right now that is useful for our project, I will go over again tomorrow. And I do understand that some of you guys don't have computers that can run Unity, so that's something that we might have to work around in the future as well. And so let's go quickly over this part, and then we can take our brain break. So, what is it? So if other, sorry. So it should be if other dot game object, yep, dot name space equals cube. And then we can go print hello world. And then we can delete this. So what this is essentially saying is if the other object that we collide into name is cube, which is the cube up here. Oh, let's capitalize the C. Cube. If the name is cube, then we should print hello world too. So what we could do here is that after we save, go back over to our Unity project, stop, start it over again. Let's go over to our second cube. Cool. Something else is happening now. So what we can actually do is that we are pretty sure that this is hitting it, and our script isn't working. So what we can check is that make sure this is a trigger, which it is. Keep in mind that this isn't a situation where, this isn't like a rare situation. Whenever you initially write code, it will most likely not work. That's when tutorials and online and looking for like online forums is a very good place for where you can check your code, especially if it doesn't work. Especially like a situation like this where you're just like everything's right, Unity isn't saying here's an error, and Unity saying hey everything's good on my side, and then it doesn't seem to do anything. So I'm gonna fix this issue. Let's go on a brain break. So yeah, you guys can go on a brain break for the next 15 minutes. It is 10:01. What do you mean, how do I send the project? Like, package the project so that it can be like its own independent game, or like play your game, or I don't think I completely understand you when you mean send the project. Let's go 10:20 since you had like a late start. We'll do that on Tuesday. That's when we'll import everything from our Blender to our 3D Unity project. Yeah, so we'll be back at 10:20. I'll see everyone there. Hello. So I hope everyone else had a nice spring break. Good time to stretch. Leave your seat. Even if maybe some of you didn't leave your seat, just take your eyes off of work for a little bit. And then, yeah. So, quick update. Figured out the issue beforehand. It was a very simple issue. Yeah, I kind of feel a little dumb. But nevertheless, what we had to do actually was just go to our animation, or go to our cube, right? And add what's called a rigid body, which a rigid body is essentially giving it physics. So like if we add in another cube that doesn't have an animation on it, and then move it over here, I'll show you guys what rigid body would do. And then we add a rigid body, maybe like rotate it so it's at like a weird angle. You'll see what would happen. So what would happen is that it would just fall onto the ground just kind of like any other regular cube would. So it would just kind of fall onto the ground and just do that. So that's what a rigid body is useful for. It gives it physics, like regular physics. And thanks to its Boggs collider as well, it collides with the ground. If we, like, let's say if we took away the Boggs collider, what would actually happen is that it would just fall straight through the ground. Yeah. So something else I can also show you guys is how to what is it? Import your objects into Unity. We'll be getting into importing our 3D objects into Unity, like the ones that we created on Monday, or not Monday, Tuesday. But what I can show you guys at least is how that process would look like. So let's say we go to Blender. Right? And we have our images, or we have our cube, right? So let's go to solid view. I'll make this like a fancy cube. Very important detail, whenever you add your object into Unity, make sure you don't have any lights or cameras or like floor, because all we want is this base object itself. So I'll spaz up this object. I'll spaz up this square a little bit so that it looks a little bit different. Click indent here. And then let's just make like this small weird shape. So what we want to do first off, before we add it or before we take it out of Blender, is that we want to make sure that our normals are correct. So what normals are is, first off, turn on backface culling. And what normals are is they're essentially what direction the face is looking at. So what would be, this object doesn't have any issue because it looks completely fine after we turn on backface culling. But what it would look like if it wasn't, like, let's say if these four faces weren't, I think it's Alt and yeah. So it would look like this. It would look funny and you'd see through. So what that actually means is that the faces are looking the other direction. And so this is how it would look like if we bring it into Unity just like this. So what we want to do is called backface culling, where we take those faces that are off, press Alt N, and then flip. But if, let's say, like, select random, let's say like a bunch of different faces were off like this, right? And we didn't want to go through time to select each and every single face. What we could do is Alt N, and it's called recalculate outside. So what that would do is that, or no, you have to select everything, go Alt N, recalculate outside. So what that would do is that it's essentially telling Blender, hey, I want all these faces that you can kind of already see are facing outside to face outside. So that would fix any problems that you would run into in terms of normals. There's another thing when we're getting into textures called UV maps, but we'll be getting into those ones. I'll explain those more on Tuesday. Just know that another thing that we would also check is something called UV maps, and that's if we're going into textures and playing with colors and such. So what we would do from this point on is that we would go to File, Export, FBX. And we would export it somewhere like desktop. Let's call this FBX, I don't know. FunCube. And then we would go into Unity, right? And we can actually just drag and drop it. So if you find it in your File Explorer, desktop, and you find the FBX right over here, right? We can actually just drag and drop it. And it already comes in with our red shader material because it's a very basic red shader material, so I don't think it found any issues. So when we put this in here, right, what actually happens is, unlike the cube, it doesn't have anything else except a mesh render. So what we want to put on here is called a mesh collider. So go over here, mesh collider, and since everything is one object, which is a very important thing to do whenever you come out of Blender, is to make sure everything is in like one object, is we add a mesh collider to it, and then now it would react like anything else, as like any of our other cubes. And that's how we bring in objects into Unity. So if you guys do have any questions, please ask us, or please ask me. But that's how we would add in our 3D objects into Unity. And then we could actually, just kind of as we did that cube, we can actually even add a rigid body to it. And then turn it around-ish a little bit. And then it would fall just like any other shape. Is getting ready. Let's go. Oh, let's fix that. So what we have to do is, we'll do something else. So a really good thing that is really good to do with Unity is it's called kind of preserving your CPU power, which is something I'll show you guys in a sec, which is making the computer do less functions so that your game can run smoother. So mesh collider, so what I'm about to do is take off the mesh collider to add in a box collider. And what would that do is, it's that instead of Unity checking for each and every vertex and each and every point on our object, it's just going to perceive our object as a cube, so that it doesn't have to check each and every single, or it doesn't have to check the specific object vertices. So what we would do here is that we would go here, we'd go remove component, go back down here and go to box collider. And it kind of already puts a box around it. We can make the box collider a little bit smaller. But I kind of like it. So let's go 0.02 for the X. And then let's go the same thing for the Y, 0.02. 0.02, yeah. So it's a perfect 0.02 square going around our fun cube, you could call it. And then we could go over here, and then we already have our rigid body. Take off this schematic, and voila. Acts just like every other cube. Let's turn back on the box collider on this one. So yep, that's like our somewhat basic introduction to Unity and how Unity works. So if you guys do have any other questions, please ask them. And I can review anything if you guys need me to review anything else. Just in case you guys do need me to review anything else, I am still here. So just by like a show of hands, I guess, how many of you guys were somewhat following through in what I was doing? It's okay if you guys weren't. As I said again, this video is still being recorded as well, so you guys can look back onto it if you guys need to. So as of now, I'm just going to somewhat go over. I'll show you guys. Let's go over to the Unity project that we'll be working on next Tuesday, and let's just try to play it. So as you see, tomorrow I won't be showing you guys how to create the bot from scratch, or the little character from scratch, but I'll just hand you guys the character for the bot prefab itself. I'll also be showing you guys how to tweak it a little bit, because the version I'll give you will have like some issues, and I want us to like somewhat solve those issues. So we'll be going over how to solve those issues that I kind of put in there inside the bot, just so you guys can get some experience. The only reason why I'm not teaching you guys how to create the robot from scratch is because that one in itself it takes a while, and you have to be like really precise about it. So we won't be going over that. I will tell you guys, and if you guys did really want to know, maybe we have some time left over, I can show you guys how to create the robot from scratch. But we'll be going over a lot, or we'll be going over how I made it and the different and how we're going to add everything else in. So as you can kind of see, there's like this obstacle course that we can run on. We can run on all the little different blocks, and then there's even like the bounding field so that we can't go outside the course, and that there's that little finish line over there. And then the other things that we're going to be doing in this thing is that, unlike what I have here, whenever you get to the end, or when our player gets to the end, we'll end the game. So that's the only thing that we'll be also adding as well. And yeah, that's about it. That's what we'll be doing tomorrow at least. So this is just our robot, and yeah, that's really about it. So we'll be doing, again, we'll be doing this tomorrow. Make sure that's also, what that also means is that everyone, please complete the tutorial, the earlier tutorials that we went over about creating the signs and the track. The robot, as I said, I'll give to you, but the signs and the track, I really would appreciate if they were your guys' creation and not mine. So I really encourage you guys to create the bot and the track, or the signs and the track itself, especially because the track, I really would appreciate it's very independent to what you guys have been able to do. And yeah, that's really about it. About what we'll be doing tomorrow, at least. And yeah, then the other thing that I wanted to also tell you guys is I was thinking about doing something special for you guys. I wanted to see what you guys can create in Blender. So I want I wanted to try out this new thing where I wanted you guys to create something in Blender, and since we'll have our teams tomorrow set up, I wanted to see if you guys could send it over so that I could be able to add it in one of the feature games that we'll be working on after we finish this one. So after we finish this game, I'll show you guys the next game that we'll be going on to. It's really easy. Actually, the file explorer. Yeah, there we go. So this one is the game that we'll be creating after. None of the assets here have been none of the assets here we're going to make. So as you kind of see, this is very barren. Essentially, this character we take from Unity's online store. It's like a free character that Unity has made for us that we can use. And all these trees are also from the same sort of kit, and all the like textures and grass and stuff. So something I really wanted us to do is fill this place up with some of our own flair. So I wanted you guys to create some objects in Blender so that we can actually add them into the final game. And I'll kind of what if he falls? Oh, like falls off the edge of the map, nothing will happen. He'll just fall forever. But let's not torture our friend like that. Yeah, so the edge of the world doesn't really exist. And he'll just fall forever. Yeah. Something. Yeah. So what we'll be doing after our second project is that we'll be we'll be going over how to make that, because all we're really going to be doing is creating the terrain, creating and painting it, and creating not creating the trees, but getting the trees, placing them wherever we want it to be, and sort of creating this somewhat online-ish world. So after we finish that, I wanted to sort of add things from what you guys were able to somewhat learn or create. So I would also recommend somewhat brushing up on your Blender skills, because there is I really wanted to fill this place up with something that can somewhat be like the class zone. So yeah, that's what we'll be going over for like the rest of the class. And then by that time, that would be the actual end of the boot camp. So by that time, our time together shall be sadly over, but you guys would have at least learned something. And yeah, that should be about it. Then I think that should be it for everything that we'll be going over for like the next couple of days. And then tomorrow I would also show you guys how to import colors into Unity. And I'll also show you guys another program. So this other program is called Substance. I'll show you guys that later on. But I'll actually showcase it now. So this is just another showcase about what game design is somewhat all about. And Substance Painter is essentially a place where we can put materials on everything. You guys won't be able to do it because Substance Painter does cost money, and quite a bit. It's part of like the Adobe Studio kit and all that fun stuff. And this was just to showcase to you guys as a game designer and programs that they would actually use in game design. So let's actually I'll pull up a file that I was working on a while ago for this. I don't think I saved it. That's fun. So I'll just import a new one. So let's take our cube. No, we didn't unwrap our cube. So I'll show you like the development process since I can't find one of my other files. So as you kind of see here, we have our Blender cube. What I was talking about unwrapping or UV unwrapping, what that essentially means is that we're going to be creating sort of our 3D object on a plane, right? So we'll be creating our 3D object on a plane going on project. And we should be ending up with something that looks somewhat like this, right? So what this is, it's essentially our object on a 2D plane, and this is what the computer will go off of, or this is what the programs will go off of when we say we want color. So when we say that we want like colors and textures and all that fun stuff, it'll actually just be like a blank color sheet, and it would be like mimicking this pattern, right? I can actually show you what one of those would look like, and you would get like a bunch of different images that look like this. So the images would look something like wonky. It looks pretty wonky, and they'll look like that. So you can somewhat see how they're just like slightly different versions, and they look really weird. And all these have like different names. Like here's like albedo transparency, metallic smoothness, normal, albedo transparency, metallic smoothness. And so what all those are, they're essentially the how do I put it? They're essentially somewhat like a 2D plane, as we saw over here. So we can actually generate these maps in Blender itself, and we can export these out into Unity, which we'll be doing on Tuesday. And so what I'll actually show you guys right now is how we would export it into Substance Painter and not into Unity, because I just want to showcase to you guys like Substance Painter and what it can do and why it's really useful. So after we unwrap it, it actually keeps that information when we transport it into an FBX, right? So we can go to FBX, export it again, go into Substance Painter, file, open. You guys don't have to do any of this, but this is just like for me. Or this is just a showcase for you guys what it can do. Goes in downloads, file, new, select, there we go. FunCube. So what this actually allows us to do is that we can bring in the cube like this, and then it'll actually have all of our stuff set out over there. Then what we have to do is that we have to bake mesh maps. Is that the wrong one? No, yeah, that's the right one. Bake mesh maps. Then we have to wait for this to finish. Since this is not a very complex object, it should be able to bake all the maps regularly. So what it's doing right now is that it's calculating all the edges and the sides, and find out which one would be in the shadow or not, or which one would be like it's essentially doing all the math for everything that it needs for creating textures. And then what we can do from there is that we can put like different textures on it in different colors, and we could end up with something like this. there are different textures, and we could play around with it. So as you can also see here on the side, kind of like our other image that I showed you guys, how it looks. So we can maybe lower down the scale a bit. Kind of looks like scales-ish. Then we can do a couple other things like adding masks and such, kind of like in Photoshop. Well, they're made by the same people, so a lot of the things are similar to Photoshop in that way, where you can add like a mask and then you can select things. Is this one? Give me like half a second. Polygon fill, there we go. So then we could actually like maybe polygon fill just like the edges a little bit. And maybe only give like the edge part those textures. And as you can see here, while I'm doing work on this main object, this plane over here is changing. And then maybe we could put in another texture and someone do the same exact thing. So like maybe if we do, I don't know, cobalt pure and put that all around it. And then we maybe took like a smart, no, let's not take a smart material. And then we go over to the cobalt, and then we go over to here, black mask, and then add a generator, new generator, dirt. And then it kind of has like this dirty look to it. And then we could also even do something else that's really cool, where we could add hard texture or hard surfaces. So we could do things like there's a way to do this properly. I just forgot how to. But we could actually like put stamps on it and sort of make like indents on it, so that like even if you see here how it kind of looks like there's indentations of it coming up and down, we can actually do that with like custom shapes as well. Yeah, that's just like a quick instance of like what Substance Painter is useful for, and we can even export this out into Unity if we wanted to. Let's discard all. Do you guys have any questions at all? Because I know I kind of went over a lot of information, and I know it can get very easy, or it can be very easy to get lost. So I just want to make sure that everyone is comfortable, or at least somewhat comfortable, and sort of ready to jump in tomorrow. So yeah, I can recap a couple of other things. Maybe something else to show you guys is like with all the tools that we've been using, we can actually create something that looks like this, like a small little town and such. And yeah, that's really about it. So if you guys do have any other questions, even if they may like seem stupid or so, just please ask them, and I'd be more than happy to go over them. how to change terrain color. So that is something that we could go. I'll go over quickly. That's something that we'll be going over after we finish this one. Yeah, after we finish this one, we'll be going over how to change the terrains and stuff. But essentially, what it is that we're putting a texture on it. So somewhat how we did over here. I don't think I have any terrain paints on here. So I'll have to open up the. Let me try to see if I can do something here. Yeah. So what essentially we're going to be doing there is we're going to have a texture somewhat similar to, actually I think I have it in here, but somewhat similar to like this one, and then we're able to paint it. So I can actually show you guys how to do it in this one, where we go to paint terrain, and then paint texture, edit, add, and it can be actually any image. So, okay, I'll ask you guys then another question. What color do you guys want to paint this one, or this terrain? And I'll paint it for you guys, because I feel like that would be a lot easier. Or what, like, you can make it also like a seamless image as well. So like if you wanted it to all be stone, it could be stone. If you wanted it to be red, it could be red. It could be any really image that you guys want. I'll take suggestions from you guys for this one, or for this area. All right, so a snow desert. So it's a very simple process of how we would get something like that, especially since it's something that Unity doesn't have. So what we would go is that we go snow desert, seamless texture. And then you would find a seamless snow desert texture. So like this one, right? And then we would download it. I don't think it'll work. So what we can do then is that we can go over here, or we can go to our file explorer again, right? Find where we have the document, or find where we saved it to. And then drag and drop it into our Unity file down here, right? So now we have the Unity, or now we have the texture. So now when we go over here and we go to edit terrain layers, add layer, and then go to, then select the texture. Create layer, might be, never mind, that's how you do it. So you go to create layer, not add layer. So you go to create layer, find the texture, select it, and then we can start painting. So it would just have, you can sometimes even add a normal map and a masked map, but we won't add those. And then all we need to do is choose like a nice brush, and you can kind of see there how it adds the texture for us. So what we can actually do, since it's really, really small and you can kind of see like we need to expand it out a bit, what we do then is that we can go on over here. There's somewhere where you can change that. Let's go 10 and 10. And you can see how that changed it. So we can keep on going, or we can keep on sizing it up until it looks like a texture that doesn't look repeated. And that looks like somewhat natural. And that looks somewhat like ground. And then we could literally just cover the entire area like this. Another thing that some people like to do is also to like make a fade as well. You can actually make it fade. So you just lower the opacity on the brush, and then you can make it a lot lighter. So you can kind of see over here on the outskirts, it starts to fade away. And so what a lot of people will do is that you can take another texture, especially if you wanted to make one side or one texture this one and the other texture another, like one part of the land, one texture, another part of the texture, a different one. You can actually sort of make it fade along. One moment, guys. Let me take this real quick. All right. So what we can do, like as we just did there, we can make like your snow desert. And then if you, let's say you wanted to take it away, we can, let's say you wanted to like remove it. You can go to opacity 0 and then go over here to, I think to remove it, it's create layer, diffuse checkered. And now we have this one that we can just cover everything back up with. So that's the way you can add and play with. And just like as the other brushes, you can make like different patterns and such. And that's actually like a really good way to like make a environment or make a landscape look more natural, is to like even just take another texture and then just kind of patchwork it in. So I can show you guys that, like I can show you guys that one again, where we can take this texture, kind of spread it out everywhere, and then to make it look more natural instead of like what it looks like now, we could take like maybe the diffuse background. It'd probably be another texture that's more suited for it. Lower the opacity, change the brush, lower the opacity, and then just kind of start. Ooh, that's too much. And then just kind of start patchworking it in through so that some places look a lot more shaded than the others, so that it looks a little bit more natural. And not also uniform. So yeah, that's how you change the colors on the terrain and such. All right, so just to go over today what we learned how to, we actually learned a lot today. So we started off today with jumping straight into Unity and learning how to make terrains, learning how to make an animation. We went into Unity coding and C# and learning how to make an animation work on key press, learning about triggers, and learning about different. We also learned about problem solving with code, and sort of our first kind of touch back with code and Unity. We also went on to learn about importing objects, We did a little bit of that. Then we also went to learn about terrains and how to paint the terrain. So that's really all we went over today. And I hope you guys are able to somewhat get a hang of all of those different things. And don't worry, we'll be going over some of the things as we need them for our other projects. So things like creating a texture and painting it, we'll be going over again. And so yeah, that's what we did today. And I hope you guys enjoyed today's sort of boot camp. I know you guys have been sitting here for a while. So yeah, that's how we'll end it off. See you, everyone. Have a nice day. Have a nice continuation of your day, I guess. Maybe different time zones. I'm not sure. But yeah, see y'all.